Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
The podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are starting our October spooky comic-a-thon, whatever you want to call it, with a little Batman Dracula action. It's called Batman Dracula Red Rain. It is an Elseworlds title, which is the titles that are kind of like what-if stories from DC. So it's like what if Batman fought Dracula is basically what this is. And yeah, John, had you heard of this one before?
I had heard of it, but this one's kind of been on my radar for, I guess, probably a couple years now, honestly. You know, we did 13 comics of Halloween.
Oh God, don't
which
remind me.
Matt will not let me pitch again, because that was a lot of reading, even with the videos. But you can check those all out. We'll link them.
The reading wasn't too bad. It was the getting together to record. We realized, oh my God, we got to record every other day. That's a lot of figuring out how to get together.
But Batman in Red Rain has been kind of on my radar with that. I like Batman. I like vampires. Put those together. That sounded fun.
Yeah.
So I was very excited to check this one out.
Yeah. So we're doing this one for the first episode of this month, and then we have our usual Patreon voted episode for the second episode. What are the titles on that one, John, that they're voting on?
So for our spooky October poll, we've got The Me You Love in the Dark, Basket Full of Heads, That Texas Blood Volume 3, and Aliens Dead Orbit.
Yes. So we got 4 good ones there. All of them. I've read Basket Full of Heads and what was the other one? The That Texas Blood Volume 3. So I've read those 2, but I haven't read the other ones. So some cool ones there. A good smorgasbord of horror stuff. But yeah, if you would like to vote on those, you can become a patron at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank our patrons, Hoku, Otaku Mike, Christian, Matthew, Kyla, Joseph, Mira, and Kevin. You guys are awesome. You keep the lights on. We love you guys the most. But yeah, so you can vote on which of those you want for the second episode of the month. And then also you get a exclusive episode every month. And this coming October, you get The Crow. We're gonna do The Crow for our exclusive month, or our exclusive podcast for that month. So check that out if you would like. And once again, sign up at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books. And with that, let's get into it. So the creators of Batman and Dracula Red Rain are Doug Mensch is the writer, Kelly Jones is the artist, and Malcolm Jones III is the inker. Have you read anything that has Kelly Jones art in it before?
Nothing I can think of offhand.
I'll tell you what you do know of his that you might not know it's him. So he did all the covers during the Bane run of Batman. So he did the Batman, but Bane breaking. Yeah, he did that cover. The one I have the 3-foot by 2-foot poster of.
Nice.
He did that one. So yeah, you know his art. He is a fantastic artist. I love him. He's even done Swamp Thing issues, and of course the art is fantastic in those as well. So really, really interesting artist. He does Batman like no one else. He draws Batman with like 2-foot long ears and like a cape that just goes crazy all over the place. So lots of shadows, very, very unique style that is easy to pick out. Like once you know it's him, you're like, oh, I spot him everywhere now, and you can tell everything he's doing. So his art is really good in Gothic stories, which works out well in this story because you're mixing Batman with Victorian, Dracula stuff, right? So, and like most Dracula stories, this starts off with a man approaching a prostitute and in the middle of the night and ends up of course, biting her and killing her. And I don't know, like the way that this starts is just pretty straightforward. And this is a pretty straightforward vampire story as well. Like, what do you think of this? Like, as far as the pacing of it, the start of it, how the flow went.
Oh yeah, I thought it was great. I think it's Dracula. It's a vampire. We don't know. We know if this is for sure Dracula yet, but it's a vampire going after some women of the night and some people that are just kind of out on the street, and Batman getting there just after whatever happens.
Yeah, every time that someone dies and gets their... Well, one thing that's different is every time Batman shows up, their throats are like torn apart, like they're slit. But there's two slits because it seems like the vampire that's killing everybody is biting and then like tearing so that it's not obviously a vampire bite, right? There's not just two puncture holes.
Covering the tracks a little.
Yeah, exactly. So he's, behind the ball. Two people have died by the time at the very beginning of this book. And then the following day we see Bruce, waking up in Wayne Manor in his very amazing 4-post bed. And we also see like in the dawn or the dusk hours of that night, mist coming in his window, a woman appearing, licking him, biting him, all kinds of stuff. He's having those sexy dreams about a vampire lady. But, they're just dreams, he thinks. He's not finding any, like, bite marks on his neck or anything. I was kind of thinking of, what was it, like, what is that movie with Jim Carrey? Once Bitten or whatever?
Yeah, Once Bitten.
Where, like, they bite him on, like, the inner thigh, like... so, like, you never see it on their neck. But, yeah, what were we going to say?
I just love that she floated away on, like, the red mist or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's the only thing about this book that I was like, I don't understand why they had to include this, but there is literal red rain that rains in the city like all the time because of pesticides or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. That was the only part of the story I wasn't sure, like what that was like alluding to.
So it's just alluding to like the dilapidation of civilization, right? So like that's why there's so much homeless people. That's why there's prostitutes around that are like so bad. And just part of that as well is that, we've poisoned the atmosphere and with pesticides or whatever and caused this red rain to fall. Like all the rain that falls is red. So it looks like blood. It's not blood, but it's poisoning everything that it falls on. So eventually, like all the plants on Earth will die. They just haven't gotten the full dose yet. But it's getting worse and worse all the time. So that's like a weird message in the middle of this that has nothing to do with vampires. I kind of wish it was just like, I don't know, raining blood all the time. Now that Dracula's in town, I think that would make more sense thematically than like pesticides or whatever. But they had a thing they wanted to tell. So one other thing that's kind of interesting about this comic is, like I said, like Kelly Jones does a lot of Victorian art. Or like his art fits in well with Victorian stuff, like architecture and things. And I don't know when this is set, like what time period this is set in. It seems like it's 1990 and also 1890 at times, like all the cops are walking around with like billy clubs and large coats, but it's supposed to be Gotham in the 90s. And so it looks like Victorian British, like police that would be walking around catching Jack the Ripper or something. And then Batman's Batmobile is like the 50s version of it. So that's also like, like I don't quite, it doesn't track with me necessarily, but I like it though. You can't quite place when it's supposed to be, and I like that feeling sometimes. But basically every night that Batman goes out, he finds another person dead until there's like 9 left. And every night that he has that dream about that vampire woman biting on him, which isn't a bad dream to have, I would say. If you're gonna have dreams all the time, I'll take sexy vampire woman biting me every night. I'll take it. But it also seems like I didn't quite understand if she's actually biting him or not. She has blood on her lips, in the dreams, and then he wakes up, but he doesn't ever show like wounds. So, but they do show him getting like weaker, and she does talk about him being like having the like she's past whatever the venom is from the vampires on him.
She had to get like vampires usually take, but she gives.
Right. So what does that mean though?
Oh, I think you know what it means. She's given.
She's a giver. All right. I like it.
But I mean, Bruce doesn't check like you said. Is there a thigh or I don't know, his butt cheek? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's on his taint and he can't see it or something. But he does sleep in the nude apparently. So who knows? But yeah, they never really like show her actually biting him until like way later. Actually, no, I don't even think they ever show her doing it. But every night he goes out, like he's running into not only dead bodies, but now there's like vampires, but he doesn't know they're vampires yet, attacking people walking down the street, and he tries to fight one of them, and he sees like, oh, like he just thought it was some lady, but no, she's super strong like a vampire, and she beats the fuck out of him, and he's like, oh my god, like what is this? And then he like sees this time, because he caught the person attacking the woman walking, that they didn't have time to slash the throat. So now there's just 2 pinholes in their neck. And he's like, oh, what could this be? Huh? Vampires. So he sleuths as he should, right? Because he's a detective.
The world's greatest.
The world's greatest detective. And he takes that information down to the Batcave, talks to Alfred with it. What'd you think of this Alfred?
I thought he was fine. He didn't. He does extra things for Batman still. So like, he seems like he's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but like, so there's like different takes on Alfred where he's like more of a friend or like guardian, less of a butler. This seemed a lot more butler heavy, I will say. Like, obviously they have a relationship, but like, it was definitely like butler,
Yeah, it's definitely butler.
Yeah. So, I thought that was interesting. I kind of like the way people have different takes on him. But yeah, like once again, it just keeps going on that like this woman, or every night people get attacked, Batman goes to sleep, and every time he wakes up, it's from that dream of the misty lady. And, but things are happening to his body now. He goes to his car to like go out, and he pulls the handle off the door. Like, oh my God, I have like super strength. And then like, he's like, let me see if I can pick the car up. And he like literally just picks it up. No problem. So he has a doctor come over to his house and take his blood, because who knows what's going on. Maybe he got poisoned or something by the person that he fought, or the mist lady, who knows.
I do love that he brings this doctor over, and then the doctor's like asking him legit questions, and he's just like, just test my blood.
Yeah. I don't need to answer a goddamn thing. You just test my blood.
You don't need to know a goddamn thing about what I'm doing. Just test the blood.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the background, we do see Dracula like pulling vagrants off the street, or like runaway kids that have arrived on buses and stuff. And he's bringing them down into the sewers where his lair is. And then like him and his followers are eating them and then turning them into vampires as well. So eventually, like we said, Bruce, he's a detective. He's in fact the world's greatest detective. So he kind of figures out maybe this is, vampires or like something like that. So he goes to some lady who's named Ariane, that I have no idea who she is. Maybe she's a normal, 90s reoccurring character, but I have not read any Batman stuff with her. So, but she's, apparently the head most knowledgeable person in Gotham on vampires and such lore. So he talks to her. She's like, yeah, duh, it's fucking vampires. And he's like, oh, okay, like makes sense. And then he says this question like, now, are vampires just evil by nature, or must a vampire be evil? Because he also is suspecting maybe he's turning into a vampire. So he asked that question. She kind of laughs like, vegetarian vampires, like what? But he's like, okay, I don't want to like actually hear you say anything. So we're done. I'm going to leave. So he leaves, and then he goes to look at some graveyards where he's like, oh, like bodies are coming out of the ground. Like he's finding empty graves. He's like, okay, I'm finding like dirt tracking from the graveyard all the way to these sewer grates. So he follows them down into the sewer, and he finds, of course, corpses that are like super desiccated, but they are still alive, and they immediately attack him. And we can see that they're like, some of them are feeding on actual victims still. And Batman, now that he's super powered, or like vampire powered, or he's getting there at least, he is able to fight these guys toe to toe. And there's a great splash page in this of him beating the fuck out of these like desiccated corpses. One of my favorite Kelly Jones panels. I would like a poster of that if possible as well. So, yeah, exactly. But, you know, there are a lot of them. So eventually they start to overpower him. They go to bite, and then all of a sudden one of them gets a stake through the heart. Another one gets a stake through the heart. And we find out there's like a group of people who have guns that shoot stakes, and they show up. They're kind of like Blade or something, right? And just like Blade, the leader of them, actually all of them are vampires, but they've decided to not take blood, you know, from humans. They live on a serum, just like Blade. But also the leader of them is this girl named Tanya, and she seems to be not evil, but that's the woman who's been visiting him at night. And he's like, oh my God, you're real. You're not just a dream. A sexy dream. But so I was like, man, they should totally get together in this comic, but it was 91, so they weren't going to do that in DC in 91, I don't think. But they do, like, they share a couple moments, but I mean, her being in his bedroom at night with him sleeping nude was pretty.
Like it said, she's a giver, and she knew of the oncoming fight with Dracula, and they would need his help.
It turns out her teeth are not in her mouth. Actually, if you just read between the panels, you know that all that's in there, all that sexual innuendo. So.
Yeah, if you have the physical book and you flip it really fast in between,
it turns into a pornographic Batman comic. But yeah, so that's not true, but you know, we can dream, right? But anyway, he gets introduced to her, and immediately she's like, don't worry, Dracula ain't here. And then as she says that, like, fucking Dracula turns into this bat thing, this bat human hybrid, and flies over them and threatens them and says, like, I will get you, Tanya. How dare you kill my children? And then immediately he's like, kill yourself. He pulls like a in Doctor Sleep, when that pusher girl like gets them to kill themselves or whatever. It's like that. He can say whatever he wants to them, and I guess because they're vampires, they're in his thrall, and they all put their guns to their heads, which I was like, that's not going to. I guess I don't know. It looks like they're putting it under their chin.
Yeah, it's a gas powered stake gun, I assume.
Yeah, they should put it into their heart though, right? Why are they putting it under their chins?
Because you can decapitate a vampire too. I don't know. Yeah,
whatever.
Actually, that's true. I don't know. It didn't seem like that would kill them.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's fun comic. So, but before they're kind of fighting him though, right? So before they actually do it, Batman is able to kick him and break the spell, because Batman wasn't under the spell because he is not one of the turned yet. But in this fight with Dracula, I feel like he stuck his fingers into Bruce's abdomen, because it looks like scratches, but the way that Bruce is pretty hurt by this seems like he got like stabbed in the liver or something.
Yeah, no, I think he got pretty hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, because later on he's like, "Oh my God, I can't walk!" Like, so he's pretty hurt, and it just, in the art, it kind of just looks like blood's coming out of his abdomen, but from what happens later, I think he literally stuck his fingers inside of him from the stomach. So, but from this though, Batman is able to, because he's not strong enough to defeat Dracula, of course. So Batman is able to take his blood and draw a cross behind him quickly on the wall, which makes Dracula go, and I cannot do this. And so he turns into a bat person again and flies away. And then Batman is able to get away, of course. And so Batman goes home. We also see Commissioner Gordon in this comic. He's kind of in the background, trying to figure out what's going on with these murders. And then also he's like helping the mayor cover it up because the mayor is running for a second term, and so they're trying to make it look okay. Like nothing's wrong here, and I think it's like the first black mayor or something of Gotham. So they're like, we can't make it look like the black mayor doesn't know what he's doing, so we have to like cover up these murders, even though that's wrong too. But it seems like that's all going on in the background. This like political thing, not really like super needed. I don't think for like what happens in it. I mean, basically, you just need to know Gordon's there because he's seeing these murders and doesn't know what's going on. And then eventually they're like, it's like Batman comes up and it's like, it's vampires. And he's like, what? And then he sees one. He's like, oh, it is vampires. So like, that's the only thing you need to know with Gordon. But we do see Bruce come home after he got stabbed, by the fingers from Dracula. And he's hurting real bad. Alfred is making him tonics and stuff, trying to get him whole again. And Tanya shows up, and is this where she does the transfusion? Or is just,
yeah.
Okay, so that's what happened. Yeah, so Tanya had come over, been like, I know how to help him, and she does a blood transfusion, which I'm like, okay, so you didn't even bite. You didn't even get the good part of it, the bite, right? Isn't the bite supposed to signify like
so
the sexy time?
It's, yeah, I would think it'd be like, it should be like, actually, Bruce, I know we know it. That's what it was. She's like, he's hurt, so we can't get it on right now.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't want to break your abdomen, the stitches or something,
Yeah, so it's the like, okay, we're gonna do this the old way. We're gonna just do a blood transfusion. And that will not only heal you, but also...
I love that, like, they had to be the same blood type. She's like, oh, it just turns out me and you are the same blood type. I'm like, but you're a vampire. Like, who gives a fuck what blood type you are? And then also, you just turned him into a vampire without him agreeing to it. But she's like, you need to, because you're the only one who can, like, defeat him with me. So
you don't understand.
Yeah. So we also get, like, her whole backstory where she got turned, then she killed people, but then she did not like killing people. She developed a serum so that she could drink that instead. And she had like horrible withdrawals, but was able to get on just the serum and no human blood. Then she was able to find other vampires who were down with that cause. And they also took the serum and, went through withdrawals and stuff. But
she's going to give him serum so he doesn't have to do it either.
Exactly. So, but they have a plan. They have a plan to catch Dracula. So she does that basically like, They set it up where Batman goads Dracula into attacking, and then they have him follow them down to the sewers or whatever. And there's like a whole underground sewer plan where they like lure him down here. Oh, also in the meantime, I guess Dracula stole Gordon. That's why like Bruce is like, oh my God, they stole Gordon. We have to find him. That's what it was. I missed that part. But yeah, like he kidnaps Gordon, Dracula does, and is like, I have your friend. And then at first when Bruce wakes up from the transfusion, he's like, they have my friend. And he thinks they're talking about Alfred. And then he runs downstairs and Alfred's like, breakfast, sir. And he's like, oh my God, you're okay. Who the fuck are they talking about? I love that it took him so long to figure out who his other friend was.
Who his other friend is, yeah.
Now we know what Batman really thinks about Gordon. Like, you're someone I can live next to according to state law, Gordon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or he's more like an acquaintance.
Yeah.
Quite careful
like
with
a slight acquaintance, but they eventually...
He's a work colleague.
Yes. So he's got Gordon. That's in the background. But Batman sets up this trap with Tanya. They go in the sewers. All of the followers are down in the sewers. All of Dracula's minions. So Batman runs through the sewers, attracts them, like starts throwing batarangs that are made of silver at them, which pisses them off. They follow him to a trap where Tanya and her people are waiting, and then they shoot at them with their, their stake guns, and then it leads them back to the Batcave underneath Wayne Manor, which I didn't understand why they needed to do this necessarily.
It's the only way, Matt.
I guess.
Did you hear Bruce Wayne? He said that. I think he said something like it's the only way.
It's the only way. But part of this is, okay, so they have to time this perfectly. So they run it all night long or whatever, and then they follow Batman into the Batcave. he like Tanya corrals them with the guns and starts shooting everybody down in the Batcave. Batman runs upstairs. He gets in a coffin he made out of metal. He has a bomb in his mansion. It goes off. He's able to survive it by, sitting in this metal coffin. And then the sun rises. Like the sun has to rise as part of this. Because as his house collapses, the sun comes out and burns all the minions inside, including Tanya. She also dies. So that was like part of it. Like, the plan was like she finally gets to be at peace. And, Batman has left the only vampire next to Dracula. So he comes out of his coffin and, when it's nighttime, I guess, and he is coming to be his final battle, right? But first he talks to Alfred. Alfred's like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to defeat Dracula? There's no way you could defeat him. And then, what? Not the mansion. They're not at the mansion. I forgot. They blew up the mansion, obviously. They go to their second mansion, which is like a brownstone that they bought in the background of this, where like Alfred fixed it up with all the weapons and everything they need. And so Batman's ready for fighting, but the next thing he shows is that he's ready not just with weapons, but he takes off his jacket and he sprouted wings because now he's like full vampire.
He is truly a Batman now.
Exactly. And they make sure that they hyphenate that. And so he's flying around in his bat costume, but now he's got bat wings as well. And keep in mind, Dracula still has Gordon, so like that's why he's got to find. And he's like Dracula's just bleeding Gordon, drinking his blood, bleeding him again, drinking his blood, talking about how no one's going to save him. There's nothing he can do. And also in the background, Dracula has somehow taken control of all the bats that were in the Batcave that flew out when it blew up. And so like they're attacking people on the streets and stuff. So that's going on as well. And we finally have the confrontation where Batman and Dracula fight. It's a pretty epic fight. I enjoyed it. I was actually worried because, Gordon's bleeding from his neck and Batman is fighting next to him. And I thought, well, maybe Batman's a new vampire. He's not going to be able to control himself around all this blood. Mm-hmm. But he is, Batman's got a pretty good will. He's able to free Gordon. And then him and Dracula go toe to toe. And like Dracula transforms into his bat form. He actually bites Batman a couple times. And until finally at the end of it, they're in like a field with his like trees and shit. The sun is about to come up. So it's bad for both of them if that happens. And somehow they're fighting and there just happens to be a power pole that they hit into it and it breaks in half, leaving a very pointy wooden part of it, right, sticking up from the ground. And so in the middle of this, Batman throws Dracula down and Dracula gets skewered by this telephone pole that has been splintered and broken.
Made of oak.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Batman, he's bleeding and stuff from his bites and whatnot, but he's okay. He sees Dracula burst into flames. What you say?
I said he'll heal.
Yeah.
Because he's a vampire. Although I was surprised. I was wondering if it was going to be one of those things where like, okay, now Dracula's dead. And like, does that make the other vampires not vampires anymore? Or I wouldn't, because there's so many different like lore.
Right. Yeah. Is that the cure? You just kill the head vampire and the...
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been watching Lost Boys too much, I think. So yeah, now we're just left. Batman is victorious, but now he's a vampire. And I thought they were going to do this, right? Because in the background of this fight, Alfred has been following them in his car because he's like, Master Bruce will need help, even though like I can't do anything. But I thought they were going to have Alfred take a bite, like have Batman kill him or train him almost to death and to live. But no, Alfred picks him up and he's like, oh my God, he's dead. And because, I don't know, he should know better, right? It's It's like it's a vampire. But kind of what they do is they make it seem like Bruce Wayne is dead. Like, we don't need to have Bruce Wayne anymore because you don't even have to like pretend to be a billionaire during the day now because you can't even go out during the day. So
yeah.
So they're like, Bruce Wayne has died. All of his funds go to like help the city, help the homeless, clean up the town. So the mayor is, you know, doing better. Oh, no. Doesn't the mayor get in trouble? Yeah, he gets charged for negligence.
The mayor steps down.
Yeah, because he hit all those murders and stuff. So it didn't work anyway. Like the mayor is still, you know, not going to be the mayor again. And like we said, or like I said, the fortune of Bruce Wayne goes to all the homeless people, and then Alfred's like getting his will and stuff. So you think, oh, maybe he is actually dead because we don't see him for a while. Then like towards the very last couple pages, we see Alfred go down into a cellar, and right there, laying on top of a stone, I don't know what you call it, a stone grave or whatever.
Yeah, kind of like a crypt thing, I guess.
Yeah, there you go, a crypt. Batman is sitting there, and he's like, "Sir, I can't believe you're alive. When I found you, you looked like you were dead." And then Batman says, "I am dead, Alfred." And then he's like, "But don't worry, Bruce Wayne might be gone, but Batman will go on forever." And so then we see he's got vampire teeth. So Batman is going to live forever and fight crime, hopefully. And then we get like the little voiceover or like the narration that says, "Vampires are real, but not all of them evil." So we are left with a hopeful, you know, Batman's going to do good still, even though he's an evil vampire. Or is he? And yeah, that's the end of Red Rain. So, John, what would you give it? What'd you think?
I'll tell you what I thought of it. I liked it so much that I read the rest of, because I get Matt said it's so well.
We should say so. There was 3 of these. This is the first one. Then there's Blood. What is it? Bloodstorm. Then there's Crimson Mist. Yeah. So, and from what I heard, I read them a long time ago, so I don't remember them 100%. From what I remember and what I kind of heard, Batman does eventually turn bad or something throughout him. Am I correct in that? Because you read all of them.
Yes. I'll say I liked it so much that I read the next 2, and we'll say just for what we were reading, because we read the first one because this was an initially of like a one-off story.
Yeah.
But apparently you said it sold so well that they were like, "Oh, okay, we'll do some follow-ups to it."
Yeah, and this was also like one of the first Elseworlds comics. So like it was early 90s. They hadn't really done this too much. Yeah. So this was one of the first ones, and it sold so well. That's probably why they kept doing not just this series, but many, many Elseworld stories following.
I really like. I'm all about what if stories. I love when they take an idea and they're like, you know, like, oh, you know, you like this about so and so. Well, if they take a line that was really popular, like, well, what if this happened instead? Right. Or if it's like this, like out of the blue, like Captain America is a werewolf, stuff like that. You know, like I love the what if stories so much.
Well, Capwolf isn't what if, that's fucking canon. So
no, that's canon.
But I will say we have read an Elseworld story, and we did it really early in the beginning of the podcast. I think it's like maybe the 8th or 9th episode, and that is Red Sun Superman. That is an Elseworld story. So you can thank Batman Red Rain for continuing and doing so well that they did that going forward. So, but yeah, that's a great one. If you haven't listened to that episode, I mean, it's an early episode, but
yeah. You know. So we may not have our pacing down, but that story is such a good story.
Yeah, it's great.
I love Batman or Superman Red Sun.
Yeah,
but Batman Red Rain, Batman and Dracula Red Rain. I loved it. Like you said, the art was just phenomenal. Like you said, I guess it was at points kind of hard to tell, like what time period it was set in.
Yeah,
but
it's very gothic.
Because it's so gothic, and you know, we throw that up to Gotham being a weird gothic town. I mean,
Right, it's
even
kind of like the animated series where there's
Yes.
computers and shit, but then there's blimps and like old style cars and stuff.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly where my brain was going with that. I was like, the animated series, we didn't question. We're like, it's a 90s cartoon and like they have some 90s stuff like they got floppy disks.
Yeah, they got whole like VR worlds that they, play games in against minotaurs and stuff. So
Yeah, but it also is, it's got like 1920s looking cars and like architecture and so I don't know. But the art itself was gorgeous and um I like the like they focus more on where Dracula when he turned into the creatures and specifically like the bat I don't
oh,
want to call him
I love the way he looked when he transformed.
Yes, that's why I was specifically I didn't want to call him Man Bat because it's Man Bat esque, but he's not Man Bat. He is Dracula.
He's got more of a skeleton face. He kind of looks like the alien from Alien 4 that's like a human hybrid alien.
Yeah,
if it had wings,
But I really enjoyed that because when he was Dracula, he was in the shadows a lot more too, so he didn't really like have like a defined look other than just a guy, to be honest. But once he is like in like the creature form, it's fantastic. And then Batman with wings was I kind of made the cape superfluous, like he didn't really need it, obviously.
Yeah, sure, why not though? When that happened, I was like, all right, we'll just go with it because fuck it, he's got wings and a cape.
And wings and a cape, anything goes now. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. All the fighting was cool. The Tanya was an interesting character, very like sultry and seductive.
I kind of wish she was Talia. I wish she was Talia Al Ghul.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like if they had incorporated a little bit of that lore, and then like she is turned and she got turned, but she's, fighting for good, and like the other vampires are her League of Assassins that maybe got turned as well.
Oh
something
yeah,
like that.
I can see that. Yeah, taking an already established character and just bringing her in.
Yeah,
that way too.
And she kind of looked like Talia. She had like similar outfit and stuff.
She was shapely, like Talia. Yeah.
I love, Talia is drawn very well in that animated series and other comics.
But yeah, I liked it. I thought Dracula's death was good. Having a gigantic stake was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was cool with the like, okay, telephone pole stake. That's got to kill him, right?
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it goes through his like entire middle section body. So I'm sure he got the heart in there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. The story was pretty concise. Like even if there hadn't been more, like I'm very satisfied with how this goes out. I did read the next two. I also enjoyed both of those. I like the twists and turns that we get in there. They definitely add a little more to it. And I definitely suggest if you like this one, go and read those two. It's totally worth it. But yeah, I would give this a 9. It was really enjoyable. I really liked this comic.
Oh wow, you really liked it then. Well, I guess that makes sense because you did read the other two. So I think this is fun. I'm not as big of a Elseworlds fan as others, as you, John, and maybe some other people. But I think this is definitely like the best of the Elseworlds stories. The art is fucking fantastic. That's kind of my favorite part is the art. The writing is fine. It's strong. It's fairly strong. It's about the same as like the actual Batman comics nowadays, or not nowadays, but when this came out, the contemporary comics. So I feel like it fits in well with like what was going on at the time as far as Batman. And I think this would have been really, really fun in the 90s, like where Elseworlds hadn't been played out yet. It's like it wasn't a common thing. They're like, what if, vampires and Batman? And I totally would have bought this off the stands, in 1991 if I had seen it. Oh, and it is, while it is Dracula and there's like, obviously Kelly pushes his art style. So like the way that the desiccated corpses look are pretty graphic, like for like a kid, but I don't think graphic enough that if your mom saw it, like when you were a kid, she might be like, oh, what are you reading? And then like, oh, I guess this is okay. Like it's not that graphic. It's just kind of like frightening, it's kind of like a creature, but there's not blood and guts pouring out of everything, so like,
yeah.
It's more like just creepy in the design of characters and whatnot. It's it's unsettling, it's off-putting, but like in a good creepy way. So I feel like, this would have been like one I could have got through the parent, censorship board when I was a kid. Like if I'd got it, they were like, I guess it's okay. There's not like gore, like, graphic gore or anything. It's just, some blood from some marks on your neck. That's about it. So, and like, some skeleton looking vampires, but kind of scary. It would have just been like scary or frightening images, not necessarily gory or graphic. So
exactly.
And I like that. I think that's fun. That's like a good place to be for this kind of thing, because it really allows you to read it as a kid and enjoy it, allows you to read it as an adult and enjoy it. Because like, a lot of stuff I read that's super graphic and I enjoy that. It's like, well, yeah, like no kid could ever pick this up, right? So if your mom caught you with this, they'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But like Red Room or something, like
oh yeah,
your parents would never let you read that. But the art in this is just as good as any of that stuff, so or if not better. Like I really love Kelly Jones Batman stuff. So I'm gonna give this one, I think I've talked myself up to an 8. I was gonna give it a 7 because, like I said, I'm not like the biggest Elseworlds fan. Like I like more stuff that's in continuity, but just talking about it, I think an 8's a good place for it. I think anybody would enjoy this if they read it, especially like you said, the other two as well. And they all put them together in one trade called what is it, Tales of the Elseworlds or something like that, Volume 2.
Yep.
So yeah, that's I'm gonna go with an 8. 8's a good spot for it. You give it a 9. So yeah, with that begins our spooky Halloween episodes. Like we said, we're gonna vote on, or the patrons are gonna vote on Patreon for the second episode of the month, and then we're gonna do the Crow on Patreon. So if you would like to join Patreon, you can join at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And you get to vote on the one we do this next month and every month going forward. And also this last month in September, we did Sandland, the manga by Akira Toriyama, which is the guy who did Dragon Ball. So if you have any interest in that, that's also on our exclusive Patreon stuff. And then all the months before that, we've done exclusive stuff. So you get the whole back catalog if you join, and you get to vote on the second episode we do every month. So unless we got anything else, I think we're good to go.
No, I think we're good. Definitely check out our previous Halloween episodes. We'll try to link some of those. But there's a lot of good horror ones we hit in there too.
Yeah, I think we got four years of back catalog of Halloween stuff. So.
Yeah, so lots of good spooky stuff to.
What is your favorite? What's your favorite one that we did?
Oh man, we did a lot of good. Like all the Friday the 13th ones were a lot.
That's
of fun.
my favorite. The Jason ones were great.
They were really good. I really liked. We did some really fun serial killer ones. I like the sorry, I'm trying to remember because we have done so many.
Yeah, we did so many. Well, there's the 13 ones where we did like 13 issues.
Yeah, it was really fun to read like Eerie and Tales from the Crypt, like some of the original
the old stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I really did enjoy those, especially because like kind of like this. Like some of those stories, they got like creepy and dark and weird, but they weren't like gory or grotesque. They just like they kind of like
sometimes I don't know those old Tales from the Crypt they were so bad that that's why they started the Comics Code, because there'd be like a woman with her head removed on the front cover, like dripping blood and shit. So
I guess I didn't feel like that. You know what? I feel bad now because like yeah, I guess we kind of get desensitized because of some of the stuff we read and watch.
Yeah. Like I said, Red Room or some of those other comics I read, and then yeah, you watch enough horror movies from now. You watch Saw. Well, Tales from the Crypt from the 50s doesn't seem too bad, but for the time, it scared the bejesus out of those people.
So I was double checking it, and I feel silly because probably the favorite one we did was also Batman. It's Batman, The Long Halloween.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Because that really is like one of the best Batman.
We need to follow up, maybe not even on Halloween, for Dark Victory, which is the sequel to that one. So. Oh
yeah, I'm totally down. And anytime that we can jump in, and do more of Tim Sale. I'm
Tim Sale, Jeff Loeb, good combo there. So
we haven't talked about him because we haven't done him in a while because we did so many. But like, if you go back in our previous episodes, that's kind of like probably one of our favorite teams on the podcast. We've done a lot of their work.
Yeah, And a lot of people shit on Jeff Loeb, but I think he did his best work with Tim Sale. Not saying that everything he wrote was amazing, but he was pretty much always amazing with Tim Sale. So
yeah.
But like we said, if you want to check out those past episodes, you can look in our back catalog, and then if you are interested in our Patreon, definitely check that out. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.